You guys ready for moon season, where the main puppets of the traditional financial system will make you and I millionaires, and some probably even billionaires, if not trillionaires, at this cycle? Because the Federal Reserve, just gave the signal of every asset risk on is about to moon. Justin from Watcher Guru. Fed Chair Jerome Powell suggests current conditions may warrant interest rate cuts. Right? So that's why we see an insane candle today, guys. Because now it seems like they truly are willing to cut. When? This September. 75% for where the market believes that the Fed will cut, 25% no. I think they will cut. The reason I think so is because I do foresee some type of black swan coming after this up finishes, guys. Okay, so let's say XRP goes for this next higher near towards double digits. The black swan will enter. They're going to cut heavy, and then restart the money printer. Now this is where true moon happens. This is where people will become filthy rich. You're literally going to be sleeping with your phone right beside you, but you probably won't even sleep because you're going to be checking your portfolio every night because every asset will rise. Okay? I'm not just talking a little bit. I'm talking it's going to go nuclear. From chat, United States U.S. money supply at all-time highs. Look at that. The U.S. money supply is just expanding. Right? Previously in the year 2020, it was right here when the supply was at 15.5 trillion. It expanded to all the way to 21.5 trillion. Okay? So about 6 trillion or so. From when you guys know what happened, right? That external event that shut down the entire world, and then they kept printing so much to the point that this thing was going ballistic, right? I foresee something similar happening here soon, probably in the coming months, where they're going to print 10, 20, 30 trillion dollars, right? In totality, and the money will be flooding into the markets, right? It's probably the last run before, and then we'll see the collapse truly, guys, right? Because they just can't keep doing this repeatedly, right? Something will break in due time, but until then, this is our chance to becoming rich. Okay, then you want to play it safe after you have money, because it's easy to make money, but keeping it is actually harder. I'm not kidding. Okay, because then greed may come into play, right? And then if you chase something else at all-time highs and the collapse happens, you lost all your money. So for now, let's take it step by step. An enormous amount of liquidity will be pouring into the markets quite soon. But first, we may have to see what's happened. Okay, maybe a black swan event next month or in October. Wonder how soon until markets remember the start of a Fed cutting cycle marked the top of both the dot-com bubble and the Great Recession. This time is different though, obviously. So let's talk about what happens when the Federal Reserve cuts rates, guys. Now, there's a negative, or there's a pro and a con here. Okay, we're going to be looking at both sides of the story, but in the end, I think it's really good. So, scenario number one was back in 2001. This is the Fed's funds rate, okay? And then they started to cut, guys. The cutting cycle began. That literally marked the top. Okay, this was for the stock market, the S&P 500 index. If this was going down, obviously the Dow Jones was as well. They literally cut, guys. The top occurred. It marked the top of the entire stock market, right? Which obviously is connected to the crypto market, because it's liquidity bonded to each other. Whatever happens to stocks, cryptos will follow, right? Because the money moves around these markets from the same players. Now, so the cutting cycle began, guys. We dumped. It marked the top. Then 2008 arrived. The housing bubble pop. What happened here? they began to cut right here, and then that appeared, guys. The same exact thing, right? It marked another top. So that's the negative part of the Federal Reserve cutting, right? Even though people were suggesting that or stating that the Fed was already cutting here, guys, right? Then they held rates, as you guys can see, but the markets was going higher. So it could be different this time, right? Though I was watching BC Backer's video today, and he did say possibly it's a fool's errand if you predict when the market will top, right? It's like basically impossible. But he said if I had to give a date, I'm paraphrasing here, around September 22nd would make sense. That's funny, because around the September 22nd is September 17th. So we basically have 25 more days until the possible top, a short-term top, occurs. Why? Because after they cut, guys, right, the markets ran insanely, ballistically. So if something happens and September strikes like this, September's right here, we dump. But then what happens after? The pattern is clear. Every other time, it pumps. And this pump will probably take it to enormous heights. Why? Because then the collapse will appear. It's probably the last time, the last run, right? Before the stock market enters a like 10-year bear market. Cryptos are different. Cryptos are going to decouple from the stock markets, from stocks. Okay, well, I mean the utility coins such as XRP. So do we know the game plan here? September, probably we top around September, I think September, end of October, or in October. The recession strikes. We buy everything cheap if we can. We try to take profits in the month of September to October. We buy everything cheap during the recession, during the black swan. The white swan already happened today. Multiple. Fantastic. I knew something was brewing. I could just feel things sometimes. But then, when the black swan occurs, everything will be so cheap. We buy it. The money printer will go ballistic. The markets will rise to enormous heights. And finally, when the tulip bubble emerges, we cash out. With XRP, it's different though. Because with XRP is strange. I think everything else will collapse, but I think utility coins will make it, right? Whichever coin survives will enter that new era, which will be decoupled from every other asset, because those other assets will be in a bear market, but not these utility tokens or coins, digital assets such as XRP. It will have its own bull market, in my opinion, not financial advice. So, in case you don't realize what's happening, the Fed is about to start cutting rates into stagflation. That means rate cuts into rising inflation with a weakening labor market. If you don't own assets, you'll be left in the dust. Right? So let us prepare, because we were waiting for this day, guys, for very long now. It's been years. Years in the making. It's finally happening. Right? This is why this is hilarious. Bullish from Cointelegraph. Swiss investment bank UBS says overseas Chinese family offices are allocating around 5% of their portfolios into crypto. Look at that. The Chinese folks wants crypto. Over there in China, it's banned. But guess what? China went on record saying, we're looking to, or there's a possibility of us bringing upon a yuan stablecoin backed by the yuan. As soon as that happens, they're going to feel comfortable with blockchain technology. They're going to finally unban crypto. Guess when that happens? I think during that tulip mania. Okay, this is interesting. When this happens, we called the move up as well, by the way, if you guys didn't realize. So when XRP goes like this, probably, right, is when money printing, China unbans crypto. They're going to literally flood everyone in and lure everyone in before the collapse appears. Is my thinking. Okay, but again, everyone wants crypto. 5% is actually crazy if you think about it. Right? It's not too much, but again, if you're willing to put 5% of your portfolio into crypto when these people are billionaires, probably, that's stating something. it's stating that they're bullish. Jerome Powell doesn't seem to care anymore. Maybe he something happened behind the scenes, but from Bitcoin Archive, Powell says the Fed is moving away from a strict 2% inflation framework. They are going to let inflation run hot. Buy as much as Bitcoin as you can. Powell said the Fed has adopted a new framework that removes a reference to the central bank seeking inflation that averages 2% over time. What? Right. So what was the point of them not even cutting? I'm with Trump here. President Trump says Fed Chair Jerome Powell is too late for interest rate cuts. He should have cut them a year ago. Guys. Interesting. So Trump is now saying, Jerome Powell is quote unquote too late. That's his name, right? But he's literally saying he's the head of the Fed. The Fed is too late to cutting interest rates. It's too late. But why is he saying that? Maybe he believes a black swan is looming. Perhaps that's why. Okay. So let's talk about XRP, guys. XRP, I knew it. You guys see how the divergences are insane? The 4-hourly, it actually held. That's crazy. Look at this, guys. That's why I made a video literally called Emergency yesterday, before the move even occurred. Listen to this. 287 XRP. What's happening on the 4-hourly? One more pop-up like is going higher throughout time. That's a triple bullish divergence. Right? If I could just see one more pop-up like this and another dump like this and then blast off, that would be perfection. That's on the hourly. Guess what's happening on the 4-hourly? Another triple bullish divergence. 1, 2, 3. Price is going lower, but the RSI is going higher. So it begins. I posted this in the morning of today. Look what I said here. It's crazy. They actually saved it, huh? Right? They sold some ETH, higher prices. That's not a good sign, guys. Right? It just got killed. So with XRP, we were still seeing some bullish divergences on the hourly. 4-hourly just got. That's not a good sign, guys. Right? It just got killed. That was the 4-hourly chart before they exploded. Look, the 4-hourly, right? It literally moonshot. It played out. They saved the divergence. That was the only way to save it by a mini moon. If they didn't do this, the divergence on the 4-hourly would have been dead. But they chose to save it, and that's why we've seen it pop. Right? Fantastic for everyone, guys. Look at this. 12-hourly still, and nothing too amazing. On the daily, looks wonderful. A hidden bullish divergence has been confirmed. Probably, triggered, but gets confirmed tomorrow. So I think we will go higher. Let us see what happens next. Very crazy days, an insane day to say the least. Amazing times incoming. Not financial advice. But anyways, that's all for me. See ya.